After playing Doom and Doom Eternal a while ago, I have been looking for similar games. Thankfully, Steam and GOG have dozens of brutal shooters to pick from, and one of them is Trepang 2. This game was developed by Trepang Studios and published by Team 17, and most players describe it as a spiritual successor to the Fear series. Since both games are shooters that combine action with horror elements, the protagonist is some kind of super soldier and they have a bullet time mechanic. There is also a cloaking ability, where I think Trepang 2 also got some inspiration from the Crysis trilogy. And I have to admit, I haven't played Fear or Crysis yet, so I honestly don't know how much inspiration they took from them. But that is gonna change at some point, since I got all the games from both series during the latest winter sale in GOG. In the meantime, I just want to share with you why I think that Trepang 2 is currently the most brutal indie shooter you can find. Obviously, one of the main reasons I say this is the combat, because from the moment you get into the action, you will see how much effort the developers put into making it as bloody as possible. One of the ways they went about this is by giving you a bunch of abilities. Besides cloaking and slowing down time, you can also dual wield two weapons of the same type, melee to stun or take out close enemies, and slide into them to send them flying and create an opening. And if that is not enough, you can also grab unsuspecting enemies to take them as hostages, silently eliminate them, throw them off stage, or use them as a human bomb. You also have access to a pretty large arsenal consisting of a wide variety of firearms, throwables, and a sword. All of them are pretty good and they remain lethal throughout your entire playthrough, but my favorites have to be the shotgun and the sword. This last one came on the Blade Kisser DLC and it is the best weapon in the game by far, at least in my opinion, because you can take down most enemies in one hit and honestly it is pretty cool. However, it is how you combine your abilities what makes the combat brutal, because if you get good with them, you can pull some nasty tricks. For example, you can slow down time and slide into an enemy, grab it while it's incapacitated and throw it as a bomb to other enemies. But what makes it even more visceral is just how the game looks during combat, because when the guns start blasting, you will see blood and guts everywhere. And this brings me to the next section, which is the enemy units. You see, while in games like Doom, you're fighting hordes of demons which want nothing more than to tear all humans to shreds, these enemies are one-dimensional and they don't really have any personality, at least most of them. And this is fine, it's part of what makes fighting them so satisfying, since there is no gray moral area. They are evil, savage beings that must be stopped at all cost. It's direct and simple. On the other hand, in Trepang 2, you're fighting people. This might not sound like anything special, but unlike in most games with human enemies, these aren't the typical unredeemable bloodthirsty grunts that mindlessly rush at you. Instead, most of them have actual personalities, and you'll notice them in the in-combat dialogue. For example, at the start of the game, you have to leave a place where you're being held prisoner, and near the end, the head of security will send all his men to swarm you, and you have to fight them in waves. At the last one, you'll hear the units show hesitation about fighting you after you have pretty much eliminated all their colleagues, and ask their boss for advice before he shouts them to go in.
Control, this is Sierra 4 actual. Sierra 3 is KIA. Should we still move in there? Please advise. Get the fuck in there now!
There are also moments where enemies will plead for their lives, tell you to get away from them, or even request extraction when there is only one survivor. And when they scream, man, those are screams of actual terror. And these reactions never really feel exaggerated because if you think about it, you're actually horrifying, and that is not me calling you ugly. You see, the protagonist is referred to as Subject 106, and given the powers you have, there is a chance you might not even be human. But that is something we will never know because you wear a mask at all times, are covered from head to toe, and never speak. Also, just imagine being a regular guy fighting against a dude that can turn invisible, throw grown-ass men like it's nothing, and can easily divorce your head from your neck with a single kick. And while all of these traits make Trepang 2 a pretty dark and brutal game, I think none of this would have had the same impact if the story hadn't presented just how grim this universe is. The lore so far seems to follow the theme of powerful secret organizations meddling with beings they cannot control, abusing their power at the expense of regular people, and things getting out of hand as they fight each other for dominance. And so far, we only know about 3 groups: the Horizon Corporation, the Syndicate, and the Jorvik Castle Cult, and all of them are absolutely messed up. Horizon seems to follow the trope of a typical mega corporation that claims to drive humanity to a new stage of evolution while running illegal human experiments, creating bioweapons, and researching paranormal beings. But the worst part about these guys is just how they go about collecting subjects for their experiments. You see, in one of their stages we invade a place called the Pandora Institute. This is supposed to be an end-of-life care facility that promises a luxurious lifestyle to terminally ill people so they can enjoy their last days in peace. However, if you read the intel, you'll soon find out that Horizon had previously stolen from the Syndicate the body of a monster called, and I'm not joking, the freaking Mothman. And after running some experiments, they were able to extract a component from its body that apparently had miraculous healing properties, but to be sure they had to do even more experiments. So, can you guess where they can get a lot of test subjects whose death wouldn't really raise much suspicion because they are already expected to pass away at some point? I'm sure you can connect the dots. On the other hand, we have the Syndicate, which is supposed to be our allies, but these guys are also the most mysterious group. And I say that because we never really interact with them directly. Instead, we only talk to members of Task Force 27, which is one of the many divisions of their private army.
I used to serve under Task Force 63. I think most of my men are still stationed there. You'd be good to them, all right, boss?
While we do help them fight Horizon and the cult, you will soon find out that these guys aren't really as good as you might have thought, especially if you have the Blade Kisser DLC. I'm not going to spoil the missions from the DLC, all I'm gonna say is that in one of them, we saw 106 showing a hint of remorse for blindly following orders for the first time.
There he is. Well, I'll be damned.
And lastly, we have the cult, and these guys are, in my opinion, the most interesting faction. They are covered in a ceremonial attire and wear a mask at all times, but if you shoot the mask off, you will see a deformed face. And if you read the intel, you'll learn that they perform mutilation rituals on themselves and those they capture when raiding nearby villages. Also, their leader is referred to as the Patriarch. He seems to be related to the Syndicate in some way, has similar powers to you, and has one of the coolest introductions in the game.
So it's true. You really are just like me. The question is, are you any better?
Now, while Trepang 2 is a really good game, and I absolutely enjoyed my time with it, there are still some things I believe I should tell you if you want to check it out. The first one is that the story won't give you much information about the world, the monsters and the factions. It is enough to introduce you to them and keep the game moving forward, but most of the details are hidden behind collectibles or intel that you'll find on each stage, and you can easily miss them if you're just interested in the action. The second is that the home base is pretty much empty and it doesn't have any NPCs to interact with, which is kind of disappointing because this is the place where you choose your next mission, practice your skills, and refill your ammo. However, there isn't a single soul to interact with, or at least to make the place look busy. And the last one is that the side missions, even though they are kind of interesting, they don't really contribute much to the main story. While the campaign does give you more information about the factions and your involvement with them, the side missions don't really do any of that, and instead you're just fighting enemies in waves until you beat the required number. You do find weapon upgrades and more intel, so you can still get something out of them. If you only care about the action, then you will still have a good time with Trepang 2. I just hope they improve the side missions if we ever get a sequel, because I was honestly expecting more from them. The combination of all of these elements is what, in my opinion, makes Trepang 2 the most brutal indie shooter you can currently find. Your abilities pretty much make you an unstoppable being in a world where paranormal creatures and SCP-like monsters exist, and not many of them pose a threat to you. At least not one we have seen so far. Also, while most games have you fighting savage monsters, deranged cultists, or trigger-happy grunts, Trepang 2 puts you against human soldiers that react in very human ways, and I really like this because it helps to humanize the enemies in ways we don't usually see in games. And lastly, the story. Even though it is pretty vague, I do think it does a good job introducing you to a world that is far darker than most shooters. Honestly, this was the first time I played a game that combines action and horror the way Trepang 2 does. I really like this and I'm excited to try the games that inspired it. But if you know any other similar games, please let me know in the comments. I would love to check them out. But anyway guys, that's all for today. I'll see you again next time. Later.